5 true Urbex stories. These stories were sent in by subscribers or by friends of mine. If you would like to have your story narrated, please consider posting on my subreddit page. I hope you enjoy these stories. Story 1. First time exploring. A small group of friends and I had really gotten into urban exploration. We would watch plenty of YouTube videos for hours every night together, and finally, we plucked up the courage to do it ourselves. At some point, we wanted to make our own YouTube channel and possibly earn some money. But since we might try it sometime, I'm not going to give you the name of the channel. We took our GoPros and decided to take the plunge. We decided not to tell our parents what we were doing, in case they would try to stop us or lecture us about the risks. We thought we knew all of them, and we knew what to look out for. Any sign of trouble and we would be out of there. Honestly though, we didn't care. There was an abandoned house nearby that had a seedy reputation for drugs, homeless people, and other smaller crimes. The lawn was overgrown, and it had been boarded up. There was graffiti all over the walls. People had been coming here for a long time now. We weren't the first, and certainly wouldn't be the last. We wanted to try doing it during the middle of the day. If it went well, we would try going back to the place late at night and see how that goes. We recorded us going in, and ignored the signs of warning that the building was condemned for whatever reason. Because we were nervous, we were giggling like idiots, so yeah, we failed when it came to stealth. There was moldy furniture with broken glass, and I reminded everyone that we should have brought some masks to prevent us inhaling black mold. It is a health hazard that a lot of urban explorers don't worry about enough. I could also hear running water somewhere in the building, but I'm not sure exactly where it came from. I heard the creaking floorboards and didn't think too much about it. Older homes would often frequently make noise. I didn't realize the danger we were truly in. And now I'm older and wiser. The black mold really worries me. I heard a scream. The floor under one of my friends had collapsed. When we found him, he had a deep cut on his leg from a rusty nail. He also had a broken leg. We called an ambulance and got him out. The police also came, and fortunately, we got off with a warning and we were lucky. It isn't just homeless people or addicts you need to worry about. The buildings themselves can be very dangerous. Just remember, these houses are abandoned for a reason. Some of them have been condemned because of safety reasons. My friend ended up being okay. He has a scar now that he likes to show off and tell the story about. Usually, he makes it sound far more dramatic, and he had to get several shots afterwards. Unfortunately for the house, it was completely demolished under orders from the council. And that was in part our doing. Stay safe when you explore these old houses. It is pretty risky. Story 2. Homeless encounter. I wasn't sure if I was going to email this in or not. Oh, and I'd like to remain anonymous if you don't mind. I don't think my story is exciting or scary. Anyway, here goes. I'm pretty new to this, and I'm far from experienced. This isn't something I would do in my usual area. I've always been far too frightened of ghosts or the paranormal to do anything like this before. And there are too many risks for me to consider doing it. I've heard the horror stories of what people have found when they go into these sorts of places. I also didn't want to die. However, I love looking at things from the past, and I consider myself to be a student of history. before the current time when air travel was much more common. I went to a small town in Italy, and I don't want to name it. The people there were so friendly and kind. I don't want to give the wrong impression about the place. It was my error going into a dilapidated villa. From what I could understand from the locals, the place was supposed to be haunted by the families of all the people who lived there. Part of the building was from old Roman times, and naturally, I couldn't resist going in to see what could be found. I asked one of the locals to act as our tour guide, and I didn't quite realize I wasn't legally able to enter. I gave a little, a bit of a bribe, a bit of a present, Together we went inside through a broken door. It was somewhat depressing. You could tell at one point it was a grand structure. It was so filthy. And I could have sworn I smelled a dead animal or something. It was disgusting. We went through the rooms and it sucked seeing the place look like this. Then I saw an outline of a figure in bed. Given the smell, I thought I found a dead body and gulped. I hesitantly stepped forward and pulled the filthy blanket down, only to see a thick, dirty beard on a gaunt man. He was covered in grime. I stared at him, unsure what to do. It was only now I discovered that he was breathing. I didn't want to wake him, so I began to slowly walk backwards, covered my mouth to stop any sounds from coming out. But he must have heard me somehow. He shot up and let out a loud, angry cry at me. I didn't hold back. I screamed and ran outside. The guide asked me what happened, and I told him I saw someone inside. It scared me so much. When I had some time to think about things, I probably scared the man too. I hope he is okay, and part of me wishes I went back to bring him some food or water. Nothing bad happened. Things could have gone much, much worse though. And I can't say I went urban exploring after that. Story 3. Hidden Secret. Hi, so my family own a decent amount of farmland in rural Australia, and we have purchased other farms. Sometimes we rent out those houses to people who want to live in the country, due to the cost of maintaining them. Unfortunately, we often have to let places go and just abandon them or use them for storage. It's a shame, given the amount of homeless people there in the country. But these homes can be money drains. Now onto the story. We've had this place a long time now. My grandparents knew the family who used to live here. Unfortunately, all the kids moved away and they didn't want to live in the country anymore. So we bought the place. More importantly, we bought the land. A while ago there were squatters in there and we had to get them out. They trashed the place a little bit before they left. Now every now and then we have to go and check to make sure that there are no more squatters and to just keep an eye on the place. When I went to have a look, I noticed the doors were still locked. I went out the back and checked one of the windows. And yep, as expected, it was partially open. It was probably just an urban explorer. We get them sometimes and most of them ask if they can check the place out. I go to unlock the door when I heard rummaging around. I figured it was an animal I disturbed, possibly a possum or something. I went in and looked around. It always had an unsettling feel to the place. It still had old furniture inside with old magazines and things. This was all the old family stuff. As I walked through the place, I noticed the crawl space door was open. And we never ever leave it that way. I didn't want to go up there, but I had to check anyway. Again, it was probably just a possum or something. I went out and got a torch or a flashlight out of my ute and grabbed a ladder from the back. I went back into the house. As I walked back to the house, I flicked the flashlight on and off while I did so, and using the ladder, I was able to get a peek inside the crawl space. As I looked around, I noticed a backpack that definitely hadn't been there before. There was no dust or anything on it. I didn't know what would be inside. I reached out and grabbed it, dragging it along the surface. It was heavy, so I knew there had to be something in there. When I opened it, I saw it was filled with money and, well, I kept it. Why not? What else was I supposed to do with it? I'm not exactly proud of it, but yeah, that's my story. I didn't tell my family about what I found. I'm very careful with how I spend that money and what I do with it. After that, we took securing these places a bit more seriously. So yeah, be careful with these places out in the middle of nowhere. Story 4. The Abandoned School. Hey, so I lived in an area that has gradually become more abandoned lately. The town isn't quite deserted yet, but it is a bit of a ghost town with maybe 100 people living there now. Most of the people have been moving out, and it's pretty sad. So when this sort of thing happens, the government will cut funding to these areas, and instead will redirect it to something else. It happens though. My old primary school was abandoned for about 30 years. I moved away years ago and moved to the city in search of better job prospects. So I guess that I'm partially responsible for this as well. When I came back to drop off some supplies to my old neighbours, I asked if it was okay if I checked out the abandoned school. They agreed, but warned me that it was haunted. I don't believe in ghosts. I never have. It was locked up and didn't look like it was vandalized from the outside. Instantly, a lot of old memories came up when the town was occupied. I climbed the fence and looked through the old windows. They were filthy. Inside there were the old desks, books, and everything else. If there wasn't a layer of dust on top, I would have thought that the children would suddenly appear and go about their day again. I looked around for another way in. I really wanted to go inside. I heard footsteps and giggling on the inside. Now, the town has lost most of its children. Not through them dying by any means, but just most people are too old to have them. It is mainly elderly residents living there now. I thought they might be joking around when I saw a shadow person run past. I jumped and thought it must have been my imagination playing tricks on me. But then I saw it again and heard the giggling. I decided against going inside the building and walked back to my car. My old neighbor called out, "Did you see them? Sometimes they can be noisy." And I still don't know what to think, but that was my encounter. Maybe it was some of the remaining kids playing a prank on me. I don't know. There was no tragic event at the school or anything that would suggest a reason for a haunting. It was nice though, and how they kept the school nice for them. I'm happy I went back to see how things are like there now. And I'll let you know if I go back to my hometown and see other abandoned buildings. These ones aren't maintained though. I guess I'll be able to send you a story for part 2.
There was an old factory in a rundown area of my town. Over time, many of the local businesses began to close and it left areas abandoned. I can't remember what caused the last building to finally close, but it happened. I live in a small country town in Australia, and there have been issues with water. Not due to the droughts, but because of how much water the cotton farms use. It sucks, but I'm not sure if there's anything I can do. A lot of the wealthier people in town moved away. This old factory had a bad reputation in town. There were a couple of times when some of the local kids tried to set it on fire. Drugs were sold there, and some crazy parties happened with people coming from interstate in order to attend. I admit, I went to a couple of those. It only increased my curiosity. I tried to convince my girlfriend and my friends to try to go with me, but all of them chickened out. I decided to go by myself. I took a camera, wore my hoodie over my face and a backpack. I was pretty excited when I climbed the chain link fence and noticed the old signs with no trespassing and keep out. There was one of them that worried me though. It said, "We don't call 000." Now, for those that don't know, 000 is our version of 911. So I guess that they would hurt people that they caught. It only made it a lot more exciting. I wondered if it had become a bit of a hideout for the local bikie chapter. I heard that they would stash things in abandoned buildings. Everything kept telling me that this was a bad idea, but that only made it so much more tempting. I looked around at first. There was nobody there. There was water dripping from the ceiling and the place smelled like shit. There was a stereotypical graffiti and all that. I took a couple of photos of the things I found interesting and continued on my way. I saw a group of mannequins on the floor together with burn marks in them and figured it was done by one of the local kids. I took a picture when I heard a scream before I ran to hide. There were two burly men who came in with a smaller one. They were screaming about money being owed to them, and I sat, silently praying that they wouldn't see me. I closed my eyes, not my proudest moment. I could hear them punching him, and after a while, they threatened to kill him. I heard a scream and a gargling sound. I was freaking out. I knew I had to get out to safety. I looked out. The smaller man was slumped on the ground. I got up and ran. When I climbed the chain link fence, I could hear loud laughing and turned my head to see all three men. The fuckers tricked me, and they thought it was so fucking funny too. They screamed, "Stay the fuck out." And I did after this. Things could have potentially gone bad for me.
I hope you enjoyed these stories. Please do yourself a favour and check out my Aussie mate, Papa Scare, and grab a VB with him. He is a fellow narrator and I think you should. This video is made with the support of my Patreons. If you would like to join their ranks, please check out the link below. I also have channel members. You can either be a spooky noble or a spooky knight. Also, get yourself some merch. Like, comment, subscribe, and hit the bell if you haven't already. Stay safe, my little spooklings. And remember, I'll be watching you.